Hi, Stitchy friends. My name is Heather. I'm the 20-minute stitcher. My pronouns are she, her, and this is Flosstube episode 59, take 2. So, yes, this is my second time recording this Flosstube episode because I apparently accidentally stopped recording in the middle of my last attempt. And when I went to edit, I looked at it and said, why is my hour and so long floss tube saying it's only 24 minutes? Because I accidentally hit the hotkey that stops my system from recording. So after I sat there and just breathed for a moment, I am back with take 2. Now, I don't have time to do my full video all over again. So this episode, unfortunately, is not going to have the full what I'm watching, reading, and playing at the end. I will share what I have read because I still happen to have those books down here and there's only 3 of them. But the what I'm watching and playing, I'm going to have to skip March. If you really, really want to know, ask me in the comments. I'll be happy to chat with you in the comments or maybe film an addenda. I don't know. But yeah, I don't have the time, unfortunately, to film my whole floss tube all over again. So we'll focus on the stitching and the reading for this take 2. So if you are new here, welcome. This is my little corner of the internet where I talk about cross stitch. I film on a monthly schedule. So I actually tend to have a lot of stitching to show. My videos used to only be about 20 to 30 minutes in length. And now that I'm on this monthly schedule, they tend to run 45 to 60. But I'm so grateful for all of your comments from those of you who've been here for so long saying you don't mind the longer videos. I'm grateful for that. So let's get right into things again. First time for you. Again for me. We'll see if I can maybe do better this time. So first, I have an FFO. I have a fully finished object. If you are new to stitching, an FFO is our fun little alphabet soup for a fully finished object. So when you take your stitching and you turn it into something. So this is, I framed my 2023 Modern Folk Embroidery Mystery Stitch Along. I'm very happy with it. This is only my second ever attempt at lacing. It's not perfect. If you look too closely, you can see the fabric's kind of loose. I might need to go in and do it better. I'm still learning how to lace. And I was kind of being lazy. I actually laced this over the glass that came with the frame. So that's probably not the best idea either, but it was there and it was the right size. So I laced it over the glass, which probably is a reason why it's not so great or taut. So this was just a standard 8x10 frame that I bought at Michael's. I am very blessed and spoiled in that my mother is a custom framer. So she has all the equipment in her basement to cut custom mats because this is not a straight 5x7 piece. It's a little bit wider and a little bit tall. Well, actually, it fit in the 7 part, but it needed to be cut a little wider on the sides. So this is framed. So now I just have to decide if I want to hang it here on my little wall back there that I'm going to be filling up with stitching, or if I want to hang it somewhere else in my house. I'm leaning towards somewhere else in my house, but this was such a fun project to be part of, this mystery stitch along in December, the Advent stitch along. I kept up with it. So I started this on December 1st and I finished it on, I think actually the 25th, or the 26th, but I finished it in the same month and it is gorgeous. All these colors. This was a lot of fun. I said at the time that I wasn't going to do it again because I didn't really work on anything else in December except this. But then I purchased the one for 2024 too. So, because it's a Nordic themed one and I couldn't pass it up. But this is my fully finished object. So, enjoy it, savor it. If you've been here a while, you know I don't have a lot of FFOs. But I will share in my acquisitions something that I think will help with that. So, all right, let's go ahead and jump into the stitching. If you are new here, I will kind of give a little background on how I am approaching my stitching in 2024. I at the end of 2023, put all of my patterns and charts into the Notion template created by Stitchy Nati. It is amazing. It is fabulous. And in doing so, I discovered I have a ton of charts. I mean, I knew I had a ton of charts, but I really have a ton of charts, and putting everything into Notion made that abundantly clear to me. And of the lots of charts that I own a lot of charts that are smalls, that are 60 by 60 or smaller. And so as I was doing all this and seeing all these charts and looking at them again and being like, oh, I really want to stitch that. And oh, that's right, I remember when I bought this. And oh, I was really excited to stitch it, and I haven't stitched it yet. I got this crazy idea of creating 3 WhipGo boards this year. If you're unfamiliar, WhipGo is essentially a cross stitch bingo. It was created by Jessie of Jessie Marie Does Stuff, and is a game to encourage us to make progress on our WIPs, our works in progress, right? So our projects that we have started and not yet finished. So last year was my first year participating in WhipGo. I had a lot of fun with it. So I planned to do it again this year, and I thought, why not create 2 more boards, one for new starts and one for what I am calling SAFGO. SAF means start and finish. So small projects that I'm going to challenge myself to both start and finish in the month that they are called for WhipGo. So when the WhipGo numbers get called each month, I have 3 different boards that I look at, and that chooses the 6 projects that I will work on in that following month. So what you're seeing today is the last couple of my February WhipGo calls that I hadn't quite finished when I filmed my February video. You'll see all of my March WhipGo calls, as well as a few other WIPs that I have worked on. I have 2 year-long stitch-alongs that I am working on, and then I have a tiny decisions wheel that I have all of my WIPs on that I spin to kind of choose what other WIP will I work on once I finish all of my board calls. And I basically will work on that until I don't feel like working on it anymore, and then I'll spin the wheel again. So lots and lots of projects to share with you today, a couple of acquisitions, and then April numbers have also been called, so I will share with you what I will be stitching on in the month of April. So as we tend to do now on this new monthly schedule, let's start by looking at my March statistics so far. Today is March 30th, so there are 2 more days of March, today and tomorrow. So these are not my final numbers. If I remember, I didn't do it in February. I intend to post to Instagram each month my final monthly numbers. But let's go ahead and take a look at where I'm at so far. Even though I feel like I have done a lot of stitching, I have really only stitched 13 days according to my Notion template, 13 unique days in the month of March. I have stitched on 6 or 7 different projects. I had 3 new starts, technically 4, 2 finishes, and yeah, you can sort of see lots and lots of stuff. I have stitched a minimum of 2,045 stitches. My Clue Mystery Sal, Enjoy the Stitch, and Quirky Quaker Frog are all paper charts. I don't count my stitches on paper charts unless I'm feeling super motivated, which I was not in the month of March. So if I had to guess, I would say I'm closer to 3,500 stitches in the month. But yeah, so pretty productive month. I really like this Notion app. I never tracked my stitching before. And I'm not like, as I just said, I don't count my stitches on paper charts. I sometimes forget to put stitching in my app. I'm pretty good about it, but sometimes I forget. So it's not perfect. It's not 100% accurate, but even what does get put in there is highly motivating for me, because I can see, I am touching a lot of my projects, and I am getting things done, and I am getting a lot of stitches in a month, even if they aren't all on just one project, right? So that's kind of fun. So that's where I am for now. So let's take a look at what I worked on in terms of stitching in the month of March. So first I'll start with my SAFs, my starts and finishes for March. So my first one, which I technically started on in February because it is a frog, I decided to start it on Leap Day, even though it was a March call, is Quirky Quaker Frog by Darling and Whimsy Designs. I stitched this on a 32 count Lugana in the color Mock Turtle from Wonderland Hand-Dyed Fabrics with a floss conversion of my own. I am obsessed with this project. I love how the flosses look on the fabric. This fabric is fabulous. I hope the color is picking up. It's just a really kind of beautiful gray-green, and these colors just look fabulous on it. I might stitch this one again for a small or something because it's so fun. But that is Quirky Quaker Frog. And the colors I used, I mentioned I pulled from my own stash. The light green is Bean Sprout by Classic Colorworks. And the dark green is Grass Green NPI Silks. Don't judge me for how messy my gloss is in that bag. So that is Quirky Quaker Frog. That is the first of my starts and finishes in the month of March. So I started that on February 29th. So I cheated a little. And then I finished it on, I want to say like March 9th or 10th. My next start and finish is the second in what for me is going to be a 4-part of the Inappropriate Cat series from Bad Stitch. So in February, I stitched the pumpkin. So this was a series that Amanda, Bad Stitch, released for her patrons last fall for Halloween. It was a series of 6. I will be stitching 4 of them. And here is Inappropriate Cat Candy Corn, which I stitched in March. So I started him on March 16th and I finished him on like March 19th or 20th. He stitched up super fast. I mean, look at him. He's so mad about that candy corn. He does not like it. He does not know what it is. He wants it out of his line of sight. He's so cute. So that is Inappropriate Cat Candy Corn. I stitched it with the called for DMC on a piece of 16 count Aida that I hand dyed myself a couple of years with a group of friends at StitchCon. So that was fun. So those are my 2 starts and finishes from the month of March. Then my 2 new start calls. So these are projects that I want to start, but they're bigger. So it's not realistic for them to be a start and a finish. So my goal is to stitch either 3 days for a paper chart or 300 stitches if it's a chart that I have digitally. So the first one is Enjoy the Stitch by Hands On Design. This was a gift chart for those of us who attended the Chantel 141 pep rally retreat in September of 2023, though I am pretty sure this chart is now publicly available as well. It is 2 charts. It is a box lid and a pin cushion. The pin cushion is on my Safco board, just hasn't been called yet this year. And then the box lid was on my hashtag 24 starts in 2024. I forgot to mention that earlier. That's one of the reasons why I decided to create a WhipGo board for new starts. I wanted to participate in the hashtag 24 starts in 2024, but I didn't really have sort of any date significance or event or holiday significance for any of the charts that I picked. So I just decided to throw them on a WhipGo board and let the random number generator decide. So this is the chart, Enjoy the Stitch. I am stitching this on a 32 count Lugana from Under the Sea Fabrics. This is the one I can't pronounce. It's like Ain. It's A-I-N-E, but the A has an accent over it. I think it's a Welsh or an Irish word. But this is where I left off after 3 days. So these were 3 very light days of stitching. But it's going pretty quickly. I also am missing a number of the colors for this chart. So I need to figure out what other charts they are in. So that I can continue to stitch this. But I did put 3 days in it, so I met my goal for March, and now it is in my regular whip pile and on my tiny decisions wheel to get pulled again. And of course, the pin cushion eventually will get called for my Safco board. My other new start in March was Happy Campers by the Blue Flower. Here is the chart. I purchased this at StitchCon last year. I love the Blue Flower. Sorry, I'm trying to get without glare here. Love the Blue Flower and her charts. I am stitching this on a 40 count light mocha. I think this is just a Witchell fabric. And this is, I cut about 340 stitches in on this. And here's what I got done. So clearly lots and lots and lots left to do. But I got started, and that was fun. So I started in the top center and finished this little moth here. That little guy, he's so cute. So yeah, so I got my start. I am using most of the called for floss for this. I might have made 1 or 2 substitutions, but Let me look and see. Yeah, I've made a couple of substitutions, but not on anything that not on anything that's on the stitching that I showed you. So that is Happy Campers by the Blue Flower. That was my second new start in March. All right, let's get into whips. So the first couple of whips I have to show you, or actually first 3 whips I have to show you are whips from, first 2 whips I have to show you are whips from my February call that I hadn't quite finished the call when I last filmed. So the first is, let me find the picture, because I have the book open. There we go. So the first is Moonshine Cabin by Modern Folk Embroidery. I purchased the kit from Roxy Floss Co. For this chart. I don't think, the color is, the fabric, is a 36 count linen in the color Night Owl. And I am stitching it with the kit fabrics. So let me see if I pulled up, yes. So here is the picture of where it was the last time I showed it to you. So at my February, when I filmed my February video at the end of February, that is what I had done. That was, I think, a day, 2 days of stitching, maybe a little bit less. And once I finished my 3rd day of stitching, that is where I ended up. Sorry, trying to get that center crease out of the way so you can actually see. So started to add the tree or the flower, whatever it is, coming out of the top. So I really kind of got, at first, I said this in my February video, at first I thought this was going to be a nightmare to stitch on. The fabric was so dark, I was really struggling. But then I kind of got into a groove and was having a lot of fun stitching on it. So it's put away for now, but back on my wheel. It is in a project bag from Black Cat X Stitchery, my little dapper foxes. So cute. So that is Moonshine Cabin by Modern Folk Embroidery. And then the other one from February that I hadn't quite finished was Halloween Quaker by Leela Studio. Again, this is where it was when I showed it to you in my February video. I had barely started the call. I think I had put in maybe 100 stitches. I am stitching this entirely as called for. So it is on the 40 count Murky by Picture This Plus with all of the called for flosses. And here is where I ended after finishing my 300 count. So I finished that trick or treat motif that was sort of just partially done in that picture I just showed. And if I remember, I'll put a picture of the finished chart up here. I feel like almost everyone knows what it looks like. It's a very, very popular chart. But that is where I'm at right now. Love this chart too. Looking forward to when it gets called again on my Tiny Decisions wheel. I'm having fun with these sort of 3 boards and having new starts and having starts and finishes. I'm having fun with it this year, but I'm also realizing I already had close to 40 whips at the start of 2024 before starting this 24 starts in 2024. So 2025, I think, is going to have to be the year of the year of the whip for me because there is just so much, so many whips that I have that I really need to focus on. All right, so moving into my whips, my actual whip go calls for March. The 2 works in progress that were called were the Magic Kingdom Stitch Along by Cunning Cross Stitch and Here Be Dragons by Modern Folk Embroidery. So the Magic Kingdom Stitch Along is my oldest whip. I started this in 2021. And here is where I am. So my 300 stitches had me finishing the Princess and the Frog, or almost finishing all the cross stitch on the Princess and the Frog segment down here in the bottom of the castle. When I say cross stitch, there is still back stitching to do on the frogs, and there are French knots making a heart here for representing Evangeline from the movie. But I'm stitching this because it's so large. I use a hoop, and so I'm going to save the French knots for the end. And just decided because of that, I'll save the backstitch for the end too, at least in this block. I've been backstitching the other ones as I go, the ones that have backstitch at least. but I don't want those French knots to get crushed by my hoop. So that is Magic Kingdom Stitch Along by Cunning Cross Stitch. I really want to see if I can find a way to get this done this year. I don't know that that's going to be possible with as big as my goals are to keep up with my boards. So if I don't, then this is for my year of the whip in 2025. This is probably going to be a top priority because I really like the finished product. I'll try and remember to put a picture up on the screen of what the finished product looks like. Plus, it's my oldest whip. I would really like to get it done before it's 5 years old, which, I mean, I guess I have 2 years for that since I started it in 2021, but still would like to get it done and off my whip list. Other whip work done is Here Be Dragons. You actually, if you are a regular viewer, you saw this in December. It was one of my December whip go calls in 2023. Here is where I left it at the end of December. There we go. So that's where it was at that point in time. And I added about 320 stitches to it, which isn't, 300 is what I chose this year to be achievable, right? So these whips are getting worked on. They're not getting like super dramatic progress made on them, but they're getting progress made. So that's where I was, and here is where I am now. So I bounced around a little bit. I did some across the top here, extended this out a bit, worked on the bottom here quite a bit and kind of filled that down, and then came over here and finished out the long leg of the H, started the leg down here. So I kind of bounced around a little bit on this one. I think the floss is variegated in a way that you don't have to worry too much about like lining up, right? Dark to light or anything like that. The color is called Plum Shadow from Roxy Floss Co. See, it's old enough that they were Leo and Roxy still then. But that is the floss. The fabric is the color Cat's Paw, and it is is it a 36 count? I think it's a 36 count. But I'm stitching with one strand over 2. So that is Here Be Dragons. So those were all of my board calls for March. So my 2 new starts, my 2 starts and finishes, and my 2 whips to work on. I also worked on my 2 year-long stitch-alongs and worked on, I'm using the term loosely because I think they each only saw 1 day of love in the last, since the last time I filmed. But I'll go ahead and show them anyway. So the first is the Dragons Afield Guide by Climbing Goat Designs. I don't have a picture. I have not been good about taking pictures of this one, of where it was the last time I showed it. It's still a pitiful, pitiful, pitiful little start. I literally have, I think before I had the word Aegon, and now I actually have the word dragons in one of the 2 colors that the word is in. And that is it. That is my sad, sad, sad progress on that stitch along. The whole border and 3 dragons are currently released. I will get there. I will get there. The chart is beautiful so far. And really, I need to make some more time to work on that. So that is Dragons Afield Guide by Cunning Cross Stitch. I'm sorry, I am stitching that on a 40 count ancient with all of the called for DMC. And then my final year-long stitch-along that I am participating in is the Modern Folk Embroidery No Time Like the Present 2024 stitch-along. You've seen it, you love it. He took the internet by storm, or at least the stitching world by storm. So that is the picture of the chart. I am stitching mine on just a white 28 count Monaco with 2 DMC colors, 1 variegated 45-22, and then 1 solid that picks up the purple and the variegated, that is DMC 154. And I only stitched on it for 1 day. I added 2 strands. I am almost done with the variegated part of the center medallion. Just that one little segment left, and that part will be done, and I will be moving on to the numbers, or actually I'll stitch the border that goes around the center medallion that's in the solid color, and then I will add the numbers and then I'll have to decide, do I go up or do I go down? But having lots of fun with this one. It's beautiful. Hopefully you're picking up the variegation of the floss. It's beautiful. And this also is fun because, again, this floss also is variegated in a way that you can just stitch, right? You don't really have to worry about matching up colors or light versus dark or anything like that, which is super fun. And then the last whip that I worked on in March was the one that my Tiny Decisions wheel picked for me at the end of my February video. And that is the Clue Mystery Stitch Along from Forbidden Fiber Co. This was an advent box of sorts from October of 2023. She put together a mystery box with 13 envelopes, and each day you got a floss and a new part of the pattern that used that floss. And if you're new here, I will try to quickly recap the story. If you have heard it before, just bear with me. I made so many goofs with this chart. Not goofs. I made one goof, and then other things were just a misunderstanding. So I purchased the kit asking for the 25 count Lugana. My intention was to stitch it one strand over one. Or excuse me, it's not a Lugana. Or is it a Lugana? Anyway, it's a 25 count fabric. I think it's 25 count Aida. But either way, I was going to stitch it one over one. Then I opened the first envelope and looked at the chart and noticed that there were fractional stitches. And I went, oh, I do not want to try and make fractional stitches poke holes in a 25 count Aida. That's why it's Aida. That's why I know it's Aida, because I was going to have to poke holes in it otherwise. So I was like, fine, I'll just stitch it 2 over 2. It'll be fine. It'll be bigger than I anticipated. I won't have as much of the fabric left over, but it's fine. It'll be fine. So I started to stitch the house in the center. I started in the center, and the house was a very dark gray, and the fabric is lighter, and I didn't like the coverage. I felt like I could see too much of the fabric coming through. So I said, okay, fine, I'll stitch the house with 3 strands. I ran out of floss. Leanne was wonderful. I was not the only person who did this. So she put together sort of a kit of the 3 colors that we would need if we were stitching the chart over 3, that we would need more than the one skein of. I purchased it. She shipped it to me super quickly, and it got lost in the post office for weeks on end. And in the meantime, I moved on, started stitching other things, kind of lost interest, lost focus. And so I was really excited when my Tiny Decisions wheel actually picked it, because it's fun to stitch. I wanted to get back to it. So that's the long story. So I have worked on this for a couple of days, and I'm actually not going to spin my Tiny Decisions wheel today because I'm still having a lot of fun with this. So I decided that I'm going to keep going for a while, and then I'll spin the wheel when I do get tired of it. And I'll share that on Instagram if I spin it in April. But here is the whole chart right now. So the big goof I made with this, other than the unintentional goof of running out of the floss in the center, is this was supposed to be stitched on this fabric this way. And I misread the stitch count or something. My brain just wasn't working. So I'm stitching it this way, and am lucky that I have just barely enough margin at the top. So yeah, anyway, so here is the chart as a whole, where it stands right now. It's so fun. What I have added since the last time I shared this back in October, I have filled in a few more of the windows here in the house. The whole house I am stitching with 3 strands of floss. Everything else, I actually decided to just stitch in 2. Because the coverage I thought was fine for everything else. So I have the candlestick, the wrench, I think part of the lead pipe. I don't know if that's the whole lead pipe or not. It looks short, so I think there must be a different color at the bottom. And yeah, there's still quite a bit here. There are 2 medallions, and I started this medallion, obviously. So there are 2 medallions. This is basically full coverage in here. There are a couple different colors of a border, and then there's a die in the middle, and then that medallion repeats over here. I think the die has a different number on it, but the medallion repeats over here. The word clue is in here. This tree, I still have 1 more of the pawns to add and the leaves. This tree, I have to backstitch the white pawn, add the rest, add the leaves. I need to finish the house, and then add the weapons at the bottom. The border has tiny little dice in each of these little ditches, right? So here and here, little small dice. I kind of like that zigzag just the way it is. I don't know. I'm going to have to go find the picture online of the finished product and decide if I want to stitch those little dice or not. But having a ton of fun with this still. So I'm going to keep going with this one until I get tired of it, and then I'll spin the wheel again. So that is all of the stitching I have to share with you right now. I figured I will tell you a little bit about my April plans. I'll show you my April projects for from the WIPGO call. The numbers have been called for April. I have 5 of them already kitted up, 1 not yet kitted. So let's go ahead. I'll share with you my April projects. So my 2 SAFCO calls, my start and finish calls. One is from the 2023 Halloween. Sorry, I keep checking to make sure it's still recording. One is from the 2023 Halloween, Just Cross Stitch Halloween Special Collector's Edition. Okay, so that's this one here. And I am stitching the Going Batty Biscornu. So it will be my very first Biscornu. I've never stitched one before, but I thought this one would be an easy one. It's 43 by 43, and it's not double-sided. There's only stitching on the one side of the Biscornu. So that is this project here. Isn't it cute? It's so cute. And I am just, for almost all of these smalls, I just pulled from stash. So I just had a piece of white linen in my stash that I'm going to use. I pulled almost all of the DMC. Don't have any 310 on here yet. I have a ton of 310. I just, for whatever reason, didn't put it on the card. But this chart's super simple. It calls for 2 colors of gray DMC, 414 and 318. It calls for DMC 310, and then it calls for a gold Cunning that I didn't have in stash. When I went to my local needlework shop, I couldn't find it there either, so I decided to get a Petite Treasure braid. I've never worked with this before, so I figured why not? We'll try something new. So I did purchase this new for this project, but otherwise everything was from stash. So that will be a start and finish in the month of April. My other start and finish I have not kitted yet, which surprised me. I thought that I had kitted it, but I had not. So that one is the Bigfoot Says Save the Earth by Lola Crow Cross Stitch Studio. This was part of the Stitchers Collective Earth Day fundraiser in 2023. I think it was 2023. I'm pretty sure it was 2023. He's super cute. He's small. I want to say he's like 36 by 52 or something like that. He's a lot of colors, so that'll get annoying for me, but he's super cute and it will be all well worth it. I don't know what I'm going to stitch him on. I have some black fabric. He looks kind of cool on that. I also have some Water Nymph by Bestitch Me that I'm stitching another one of the Earth Day charts on that I really like. So I don't know. So this guy has to be kitted up still, but that will be one of my April start and finishes as well. My new starts for April, as picked by the random number generator, are from the 2022 X-Stitch the Rainbow collaboration, whatever you want to call it, is My Garden in Autumn by Mani Didona Designs. The autumn garden palette, the thread dyer was Cottage Garden Threads, so there was a whole palette they put together. I purchased like 5 or 6 of these charts. I've only finished one, not this chart specifically, but of the charts that were in this autumn garden palette collection. I've only stitched one so far, so this will be the second one. And I purchased this one as a whole kit from Top Knot Stitcher. I remember when it arrived, I was like, I purchased a kit? Didn't realize I purchased a kit, but that's fine. So it comes with the fabric. It also comes with all the finishing materials to make this pillow. I don't think it came with the pins. I think the pins were a separate purchase and I did not get those, but who knows? Maybe there are pins hiding in here. But anyway, so that will be a start in April for me. My Garden in Autumn. My other new start is another one of the Statehood Splendor series. If you watched my video last month, you saw that I finished Washington in February. And sorry, it's sticking in the bag here. And in April was called Arkansas. So as a reminder, or new, to those of you who are new, my father was career military, so I grew up kind of all over the place. And when this series came out, I decided I was going to purchase the charts for every state that I have lived in and stitch them up all on the same fabric and turn them into pillows and put them in a dough bowl. So I have stitched Ohio and I have stitched Washington. Ohio is the state I live in currently. Washington is the state where I was born. I didn't choose it that way. The random number generator picked Washington as the next one to stitch. But it's kind of cool that it worked that way. Arkansas, we lived in Arkansas when I was in middle school. So we moved there in, I think, October or November of my 6th grade year. And I was there through 9th grade. So that is Arkansas. I kitted this from Stash. I am stitching this, as I mentioned, I'm stitching them all on the same fabric. The fabric is Sand Dollar by Bestitch Me, 32 count Lugana. And I am stitching all of these from Stash. So the DMC are the called for. It's 3011 and 930. But all of the fancy flosses are my own conversions because I didn't have the called for ones in my stash. So I'll be happy to share those with you when I film my next video and it's all done. I'll share with you what they were if you're interested, if you like how it turns out. So that is Arkansas by Thread Milk Designs, and I won't make you watch me fight with it to get it back in the bag. Lastly are my whips that were called for April. So the first one is Let's Rejoice by Imaginating Ink. And this one, I might try and finish this one. So it's a paper chart. So my goal is to stitch on it for 3 days. 3 days might be enough depending on how much stitching time I get, because this is where this project is right now. This project's super fun. It's unlike anything I've ever done. It's essentially black work. There is literally only the words Merry Christmas have any cross stitch and everything else is back stitch. And this is where it sits right now. So I really have just the dove's other wing to do, the rest of his body, and then sort of the lighter blue branches, I guess is what they are, that are at the bottom. This is being stitched on a 28 count Lugana, just opalescent white, with the 2 called for DMC colors, which are 796 and 799. Interestingly, only 799 is in my project bag. I'm gonna have to find where 796 walked off to before I can stitch on that at all. So that is one whip. The other whip is one I can't show you because I don't have like a mock-up of the chart. I purchased it off Etsy. It is called, well, I am calling it Life is Short. It is by the Snarky Art Company on Etsy. I will quickly flash it. It says, tell someone you love them today because life is short, but shout it at them in German because life is also terrifying and confusing. I purchased it to stitch for my daughter who loves languages. I just thought she would think it was funny. So I did start this in May of 2023 as part of, what were we calling it? Mayhem or something like that, where I had picked a new chart to start each month in May. But then I got sick in May, so I only started 2 new charts. This was one of them. So that's all I have so far is but shout it at. I don't know. I might be able to finish this in, it only has, it's 97 by 118, but so much of it is words. I don't even know. I mean, I'm sure it has more than 300 stitches in it, but probably not much more. So maybe I could even finish it in April. We'll see. But those are all of my calls for April. So those are the charts that you'll get to see again at the end of April. Hopefully at least 2 of them will be finished, maybe even a little more. We'll see. That is all the stitching that I have for you today. I do have a couple of acquisitions. One I put away and I forgot to get back out before I started filming. Please hold. Okay, I'm back. So I am part of the quarterly bag club from Black Cat X Stitchery, Tiffany. And so I got my spring quarterly bag. It is this beautiful, I'm pretty sure this is a Teresa Kogut fabric. Little bunnies, very springy, Eastery, very pretty contrasting fabric inside. And I love this club. Sorry, I don't know why I blanked on the word there for a second. In part because, so she used to actually include some other things too, right? A chart or something else. She would curate a couple of other things to go in her bag. But she announced last month that she wasn't going to do that anymore, which actually dropped the price of the club each month and or each quarter. And that she's just focusing on the things that she makes. So it's the bag, it's the Ort holder, and a needle minder. She said every once in a while maybe there would be something different, but I'm perfectly happy with this. This is why I joined the club anyway. The other stuff was fun, but I don't know whether I'll stitch any of the other things, right? So I love her bags, though. If you've never had any of her bags, strongly encourage you to go check her out on Etsy, Black Cat X Stitchery. Her bags are excellent quality. Her fabrics are beautiful. I have several of her bags. So that was one acquisition. And then the other acquisition is stitchy related, but not cross stitch. So I mentioned earlier when I showed you my Modern Folk Embroidery fully finished piece, I don't FFO things very often. I'm not super good at it. So part of it is a confidence thing, and I just have to make myself do it and be okay with them being imperfect, which is totally fine. I am not a perfectionist by any stretch of the means. It's more just about having the time and energy and making myself do it. But I also have some things that I've stitched just because I wanted to stitch them, but I don't necessarily want to display them. So I have a box full of finishes. Most of them are things that I do want to display in some way, but there are several that aren't. And I have a lot of these smalls and other charts that I'm stitching that I'm like, I really like them. I want to stitch them. I want to have them somewhere, but I don't necessarily need to have them displayed. So I kind of started thinking about what else I could do. And Michelle of Michelle Bendy has like a junk journal, a scrapbooking, a cross-stitch journal that she puts things in. Laura of Stitching by the Shore has actual scrapbooks that she puts things in. And so I decided, well, why not? I used to scrapbook. I have a ton of cardstock and stickers and fancy cutters and all kinds of things from my scrapbooking that I could really, I could do some scrapbooking of my cross stitch that I still want to have finished in some way or fully finished in some way rather than just sitting in a box. But I don't need to have framed or made into a pillow or in some other way for public display or consumption, right? So I had a 30% off coupon at Michael's and went and got a scrapbook. So it is by Recollections, and this one holds 100 pages. It has 50. They're essentially sheet protectors, right? They're 8.5 by 11 sheet protectors, basically, but they're acid-free, UV, whatever, right? They're archival quality sheet protectors, basically, so that I can finish my cross stitch on a piece of cardstock and just slide it in. And then I have a scrapbook. So this was my other acquisition in the month of March. You can see I've not done anything with it yet, but I also just bought it like last weekend. So I'm hoping in April, maybe May. April's a pretty busy month, but maybe in May, starting to finish some things in my scrapbook. And obviously, when I do, I will share them with you. So those are my two acquisitions in the month of March. I'm really being good about not buying new charts, new cross-stitch stuff. Got plenty of that. So I'm really just focusing on doing the stitching this year. That is all of the stitching that I have for you. And as I mentioned, because I'm running out of time to film today, I already said all of what I'm reading, watching, and playing just to thin air earlier, apparently, because it wasn't recording. I'm just going to do reading today. So if you are not interested in that, that's totally fine. This is predominantly a stitching channel. I wish you all the best and have a great rest of your day. Thanks for hanging out with me. If you are new, I would love for you to subscribe and do all the YouTube things to be officially a part of the community. And otherwise, I hope I will see you at the end of April when I film again. If you are interested, like I said, I'm going to skip what I'm watching and what I'm playing for the most part. I might mention a couple of things, but I won't go through everything all over again because I've been watching a lot in March and it would just take too long and I don't have the time. But I will talk about what I'm reading and I'll share one or two things that I'm watching and playing. So if you are here for that, let's dive into that. So in my February video, I shared that I was reading If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. I finished this in March. This book is my daughter's book, actually. This is currently her favorite book. She wanted me to read it. She thought that I would really enjoy it as well, and she was right. It was a very good book. A little slow at some points, the characters are kind of despicable in some ways. And so there were some points where I was like, why do I care about what happens to these characters? They're all kind of jerks. Um, but, but I stuck with it. And in the end, it actually was a very, very good book. The further away I get from it, the more I'm like, oh yeah, it was actually a really good book. The ending was not what I expected. I won't say more than that because I don't want to potentially spoiler anything or ruin anything for anyone. I don't want to say like why it surprised me because again, I don't want to spoil anyone. But it was not what I expected, the ending, and I kind of dig it that it was not what I expected, and it was kind of cool. But quick summary: these are college students who attend a very, very sort of elite and very, very niche performing arts college. They are theater students. This college, the only theater they do is Shakespeare. And one of them dies. And then the rest of the story is sort of about how the other five kind of start to implode and fall apart as a result of the circumstances of their classmates' death. Again, I don't want to spoil too much, so I won't say more than that. It's a good mystery. It's billed as a thriller, a literary thriller. Maybe I don't know what the word thriller means. I didn't think it was a thriller. I read it more as a mystery. Though there definitely were some parts that you're like, what the heck is wrong with that person? What is going on? So I guess maybe that makes it a thriller. I don't know. But it was very good. If you enjoy mysteries, if you enjoy sort of the arts, there's lots of, obviously, because it's an arts university that they attend, lots of reference to the arts, lots of Shakespeare. If you like Shakespeare, you'll probably love it. It was good. It was very good. Would recommend without hesitation. So that kind of got me into a mystery mood. I went to the library, even though I have like 60 books here that I haven't read. I was like, I'm going to go to the library and pick out a book. I went to the library. I did what I often do when I go to the library because I really enjoy reading, but I'm not someone who keeps up with like, what are the hot new releases? I tend to go based on book jackets, not only the artwork of them, but like I'll read the book jackets and see if the summary is something that sounds interesting to me. So when I go to the library, I frequently just head straight for the new arrivals section and I just kind of poke around and see if anything catches my eye. And when I went last time, something did. Okay, how do I get the glare off? There we go. So I picked up this book, Maud Horton's Glorious Revenge by Lizzie Pook. I've never read anything by her before. And I'm only about 70 pages into this book, so I'm a little less than a third of the way through. But so far, I'm really enjoying it. So quick summary. It's set in Victorian England, 1850-ish, 1849 to 1851. And short version, it is about Maud Horton and her sister, Constance. Yes, Constance. They are two sisters whose parents both passed away. They live with their grandfather and work with him in his pharmacy. And Maud is perfectly content to have that quiet life. Constance, her younger sister, 20 years old, complete opposite. Loves thrill, loves adventure, wants to see the world, ends up finagling her way secretly, basically taking the place of a boy who was supposed to be the cabin boy on a ship bound for the Arctic. So she masqueraded as a boy, got herself on this ship to go have the adventure of a lifetime. The ship returns. Maud and her grandfather are there waiting for her to welcome her home, and she doesn't come off the ship. They learn that she died on the ship, and no one will tell them what happened. No one will talk about it. And Maud is now on a mission to find out what happened and to hold whoever accountable for her sister's death. Like I said, I'm only 70 pages in, so I don't know a whole lot about how this is going to unfold. There was a pretty cool scene where she basically stormed into a meeting of a bunch of bigwigs at the English Admiralty and demanded answers. Didn't get them, but someone who was in the room then found her like the next day or followed her out that afternoon and said, meet me at this shady bar. I have information for you. So that information was her sister's journal that she kept on the ship. So what seems to be is going to happen, because it's been one transition so far. She's reading the journal, and then it kicks back to modern day with some of what's going on with some of the people mentioned in the journal. And Maud is sort of using the journal to kind of identify, who do I need to talk to? Who are the people she mentions in her journal that seem like people I need to go talk to and find out what they know? So really enjoying so far. I'll let you know in April, when I film in April, how it goes, because my intention is to try and finish it pretty quickly, because I picked up today at the bookstore A Single Thread by Tracy Chevalier. I will be reading this in April as part of the brand new Stitches and Pages book club. If you watch Katie, the novel Stitcher, I've mentioned her on here several times. She's one of my must-watches. Then you probably already know about this. If you don't watch Katie, then you might not. But Katie, the novel Stitcher, is a very big reader, as you might surmise from the name of her channel. And she decided to combine her two favorite hobbies of reading and cross-stitching and create a stitchy book club that she is calling Stitches and Pages. And so during her last video, well, I guess now 2 videos ago, she offered 3 books up. People voted in the comments. This was the winner. So on April 1st, we are all starting A Single Thread. We will have 2 months to read it. And then at the end of May, beginning of June, Katie will host a couple of Zooms for us to all get together, stitch, meet each other, talk about the book. Super excited about that. And the book also sounds very interesting. So this is open enrollment. If you are interested, hop on over to Katie the Novel Stitcher, give her a follow, a subscribe, grab your copy of the book, paper copy, library copy, audiobook, whatever works for you. Some people are choosing a project to work on, sort of along with the book. I'm not, just because I have so many projects for my boards that I want to make sure I meet those goals. But at least as of now, I'm not planning on picking anything out. But that is A Single Thread by Tracy Chevalier. A real quick summary. I won't read the whole back, but basically the main character, Violet, lost her brother, lost her fiance in World War I, in the Great War. And basically kind of has become part of that generation of women who, as a result of the war, kind of became spinsters, because the women so greatly outnumbered the men for after World War I ended. So she ended up getting a job in Winchester as part of a society of broiderers, which is women who embroider kneelers at the cathedral in Winchester. And so she ends up getting a job there and starts to kind of make a life for herself, an independent life for herself doing that. And this part I will read. It says, but when forces threaten her new independence, she must fight to put down roots in a place where women aren't expected to grow. So yeah, I will be starting this very soon. That is my reading. As I said, I won't go through everything I've been playing or watching, because I've been watching a lot. In terms of watching, I will say, if you're a regular viewer, you know I've been talking how the kids and I have been watching Naruto Shippuden. We actually finished the whole series last night. You may have seen it on my Instagram. It was one of the few sort of non-stitching related stories and posts that I made, because it was a big deal. 720 episodes, and we finished the whole series last night. It was so good. I mean, it was campy and cheesy and silly in some parts, but overall, such a good show. It's a huge investment. I mean, it took us a year, a little bit longer, I think, to watch the whole thing, but it was so good. Really quickly, I'm watching a bunch of other anime right now too. Also watching some reality TV, Survivor and Amazing Race are back on. Amazing Race is my all-time favorite. I love that show. And other anime I'm watching that I would recommend, I've mentioned it before, A Sign of Affection. Still love that show. It is so sweet. It is so charming. It is so wholesome. I love it. Really recommend that one. And I just started today The Apothecary Diaries, which I have also I've only watched 1 episode so far, but I really enjoyed it. It was really good. The main character is a girl named Mau Mau, who is an apothecary's daughter, and ends up being kidnapped and sold to basically the emperor's palace, his second palace, where all the concubines and women are kept. And yeah, it's hard to describe because I've only watched 1 episode so far, so I don't know all the details, but she is a strong character with a little bit of sass and attitude, and I kind of love her. So I have high hopes for the rest of this series. That is the Apothecary Diaries. And I'll kind of stop there. That's a quick summary, not everything, but kind of the highlights. So thank you for spending some time with me. Would love to hear in the comments what you're stitching on. If you're doing WIPGO, what were your calls for April? Would love to know what you're watching or what you're playing or what you're reading. Are you joining in on Stitches and Pages? Would love to know. Also, are you going to Stitch North? I will be at weekend 1 in just a couple of weeks up in Brampton, Ontario, Canada. If you're going to be at weekend 1, would love to know, would love to meet up with you and get to say hi in person. I know Jen, the Backcountry Stitcher, is going to be there, and I'm super excited about that. And because she is also one of my must-watches. Make sure I watch all of her videos when they come out. But anywho, so let me know in the comments and anything else. Happy to chat about it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. And as I always close my videos, I will say, hug your loved ones, take care of yourself, happy stitching, and I will see you again in about a month. Bye.